recruiting. The big one is obviously the news today that the 2026 quarterback commit Jett Thomalla has now flipped to Alabama. This was something that I think picked up a lot of steam over the last couple of weeks. So Jett committed back in April. He was an elite 11 guys, a top 10 quarterback in the country in his class, and committed back in April. That was seen as a big win because that was, he's the best player in Nebraska. He's, top 10 quarterback. His teammate, one of his wide receiver teammates, is already committed to the class, and there was a couple other people from this class that we were looking at, and that was a part of a big coup in the Omaha area in the state of Nebraska, and just in general, Jett would be a great player to have, no matter where he was coming from. But it would, having him so close to home would have been really nice. But unfortunately, that's just not how things work in college football anymore. Now, can you blame a kid for transferring to, or if not transferring or transferring, but especially for flipping their commitment to Alabama if they come calling? Is Alabama going forward going to be what they were under Nick Saban? I don't know. Kalen DeBoer seems like a pretty good coach. I'm sure Alabama will continue to be, in the very S tier of college football programs for the foreseeable future. But, um, you know, they were almost certainly able to offer a significantly larger NIL package. I don't know if that's why he flipped. I would have to imagine that probably at least got his interest. Aside from just them being Alabama, I would have to imagine that the dollars and cents probably played a factor here. Um, what's interesting though is that Bama's 2025 quarterback, I believe, is a 5-star. So that's kind of an interesting deal. I'm gonna pull that up here real quick because I don't want to make sure I'm not misspeaking here. But I want to say that Alabama's 2025 quarterback is a 5-star. Yeah, it's Keelan Russell. He's the number one, he's the number 2 national player, number 2 quarterback in the country for the 2025 class. So, and he's actually a perfect 100 rating on 247 Sports. So he's not only the number 2 quarterback in the class, but he is projected to be an early starter and probably eventually a high first round pick in the NFL draft whenever he's available. So Jett's going to be sitting behind a 5-star quarterback for a few years, and I would guess that they're probably going to recruit another 5-star right behind him, or someone that's right up in Jett's neighborhood. That's not to say you shouldn't try to compete. And Alabama's a great program that is consistently competing for national championships and all that. I get all that. However, it is not as though he was committed to a bad program that, it's not like I promise I'm not trying to take a personal shot here, but it's not like he was committed to Kent State and that was just his best offer. And then all of a sudden Alabama comes calling because, that's just, the step that it took or whatever. And, someone found something on tape and this kid was committed to Kent State ahead of time. And now Alabama's calling. That is not the case here. Iowa State has been a consistent winner for the last decade. So really most of the time that Jett Thomalla has been like conscious to the world around him since he was 7 years old, approximately, 7 or 8 years old, Iowa State has been good at football. And have they won national championships? No. But he is barely old enough to remember, this is a fascinating conversation to have and a fascinating thing to say, but he is barely old enough to remember when Iowa State was really bad at football. So, but now not only are they consistently pretty solid, but now they're in a position where where Iowa State believes, and I think they correctly believe, that they can be in the hunt that they can be in the conference title race most years. Maybe there'll be 1 year here and there where they take a step back if you lose a whole bunch of talent, like after the 2021 season. But I believe, most years Iowa State should be in a position to be competing for the Big 12 title and thus a playoff berth. So it's not, it's not as though he's competing, it's not as though he's, going from a G5 school or whatever to Bama. He's going from a Power Four school that's near the on the top end of its conference and just going to an SEC school. So I would be pretty surprised if money didn't play some factor here because even a backup, even if Bama never expects Jet to play, they're still going to pay him quite a bit of money and probably more money than Iowa State can pay him. Um, I mean, and I get it. Like, I'm not the kind of person that doesn't think college athletes should get paid. I mean, they should absolutely be getting paid, as as I believe as full time employees, and they should be able to get what they need, what they deserve on the open market. All this, yeah. I'm not contesting his ability or his right to go, make as much money as he thinks he can make. Millions of dollars is a lot of money. He could probably make. He would easily make seven figures at Iowa State. Maybe not right away as a freshman, but if he became the starter, he would make seven figures pretty fast. But, at Alabama, even as just an incoming recruit, you're probably making seven figures right off the jump. And if you become a starter and you're a big name around college football at Alabama, you're making a whole lot of money. You know, you're making first round draft pick in the NFL type money. Um, so I get it. I would be. I don't know how much of a factor the NIL money is in it. I'm not trying to attribute, nefarious motive to him or anything like that. But I'd be shocked if that didn't play a part. And I think you'd probably be lying to yourself a little bit if you said it didn't play any part. It's truly just because Alabama is this prestigious blue blood. Yeah, when we get it, but it's not like I said. It's not like he was going from San Jose State to Bama. He's going from a higher end Big 12 school up to the SEC. It's not nearly that kind of jump. As much as I'm sure a lot of SEC fans would like to have you believe that it's some massive jump that's just not even in the same neighborhood. Um, he would still have a shot to make as a starter. He would still have a pretty good shot to make the college football playoff and all that.